All right, so we are working with our layers. We have almost all of them turned on. We are cutting things out that we don't feel are necessary. To get some sort of image. And if we don't like what we did, we can always go back in our history. Or we can do Command Z to just do one step back. And you can always redefine your selection just by drawing a new selection. Amen. All right, so bringing in my last layer here. Now this one's a little complicated. This is just to give you the full options available. My last layer is quite thin. So if I make it bigger, you'll see that its line quality is only as thick as the rest of my lines when I make it really large. So how can I actually thicken the lines? Well, there is a way. And this is getting to kind of more advanced tools in Photoshop. You're not required to use these, but it might help you a little bit. So that's the placement I want of this layer. Here, let me turn off the others just so you can see it clearly. So I have my background image, and then I have this layer. But you see how its lines aren't as thick as the other lines. So what I'm going to do is first go to image adjustments, like we did to clean up the pages. Go to levels and see if I can darken the blacks enough so that they thicken without getting really fuzzy. And that generally won't work because there's enough kind of debris in there. If I try that, you'll get kind of this pockmarked look, right? Which isn't great. So I'm going to show you another method that's more useful. But I'll make these black lines as thick as I can without having any debris showing. And that's usually using the mid-tone slider and the highlight slider together. Okay, now instead of just having it on multiply mode, I'm going to actually turn off multiply mode and put it on normal mode. So I have all the whites in there now. But I have to get rid of all those white pixels. So this isn't just seeing through them in multiply mode, it's actually deleting all the white pixels. So the easiest way to do that is to use the magic wand right under the lasso, set it on a tolerance of 32, which is its default. So that means it will select all pixels that are similar to the one I clicked within 32 percentage points. So if they're 32% similar, it will select them. If they're 2% similar, if I put 2 there instead of 32, that would select fewer pixels, right? If there's 80% similar, if I put the tolerance to 80, it would select a lot more pixels. So it's about the range of tolerance. Now I'm going to uncheck continuous because I don't need these pixels to actually be touching each other. And now I'm going to click somewhere in the white, right? And it will select every white pixel or everything within 32 percentage points of white. And I feel very confident that the black pixels are not going to be selected. And then I can just hit delete. And it didn't look like anything happened because I have a white background there. But if I take away that white background and that background layer, look what it did. So this is different than being on multiply mode. The only way you would see this in Photoshop is if you truly get rid of all the white pixels, just by deleting. Now I hit Command D to deselect. Now what's the advantage of that? Well, now I can double click on that layer to get what are called the layer style options. And these are kind of automatic accent tools that Photoshop gives you. And the one I'm going to use to thicken the lines is the stroke tool. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to position it on the outside of the line. And you can see how it got a little bit thicker just there. I'm going to pick the color as black, using only web colors, so it's really clear. And then I can play with the size, and I can make it basically as thick as I want. And then Photoshop will take whatever pixels are in that layer, and it will grow them for me. And then it will add that effect underneath the layer, so I can turn it off and on as I like. But that helps. And I still want to delete and edit from that layer. But then I might be happy with how all my black lines are working together. And I'm going to try using the magic wand again, but turn contiguous back on and select all of the space within that arm, and then delete that from the background layer. And then let's turn on these other layers. If I want a shortcut to fit everything on the screen, instead of just doing Command- to zoom out, I can always do Command-0, which will fit the whole thing on the screen to whatever the window size is. All right, let's use this for a few other selections. And if I want to add on to my selection, I can hit Shift, and that will just, I'm using the lasso and Shift, and I was able to select these different areas. And I can erase those out fully. If I hold down Shift, let me show you that so you can see it clearly. I can hold down Shift, and I'm using the magic wand, and I have contiguous turned on, and I can select his boot and his bracelet and his hair and his bracelet here and his sword. And now all of those are selected together. And so I can delete them out of other layers should I want to. Like so. Like so. Like so. Like so. All right. So now I'm just going to see where I can simplify it. And I'm just going to use the regular eraser tool. I'm going to use it as a hard-edged brush. So hardness 100%, opacity 100%, flow 100%. And now I'll just do touch-ups by erasing by hand to finish this off in black and white. Working through whatever layers I think are getting in the way. And 5 layers doesn't seem like a lot, but it's still too many to really be able to fully understand while you're working on it. So a lot of it's just trial and error, seeing what makes sense. This is the editing part, being selective. I think I'm going to keep that part of a circle. I like that. But I'll take it out where this axe is overlapping. Break the border a little bit. Give a sense of relative perspective just through the overlapping shapes. And if at this point you feel like you're over-relying on one layer more than the others, you can weaken that imagery too. Okay. Now we could finish the project here with just the black lines being where we want. And we hope it's a nice, pleasing shape. But we can also replace the black with a color if we like. We have lots of options for that. So that's what I'll show in the next demo. But for now, I'm going to make sure I save my work. File, save. I've already named it Carl Fry He-Man Cartoon Jumble. So this is the PSD file. If I think of this as my finished work and I like the outside shape, I can just save it as a JPEG from here to the desktop and then upload that. Or I can use the crop tool, which is underneath the magic wand tool. Make the border a little bit tidier. Hit return.